Labour, however, are saying enough is enough. It is time for government action, and are now suggesting that the government should insist the inquiry rethinks the remit of the whole investigation, because at the moment it is a huge inquiry looking into pretty much every area of public life stretching back over the past 25 years. This was the Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott.
I think the government needs to acknowledge this isn't a recruitment problem. This is a problem about the leadership of the inquiry, and the responsibility goes back to the Home Secretary. They have to step in and reassure survivors and the general public that this inquiry is still viable.
So, what is to be done? Well, I'm joined by Tim Loughton, Conservative member of the Home Affairs Select Committee. Well, what should be done?
Well, first of all, I think this latest news is not helpful, and this drip, constant negative news stories is damaging. But this is not about the integrity of the inquiry, and it's not actually about the competence of the people now running it. I have absolutely full confidence in Alexis Jay. These are problems to do with various personnel and various personalities and various individuals who have left the inquiry over the last few months. It is absolutely essential that Alexis Jay, who has launched this review into where we are with the inquiry, how it might be better focused in the future, we get that review out in the public domain. And frankly, the inquiry has got to be much more upfront, much more transparent about what has happened, and more importantly, how this inquiry is going to be successful going forward. And that is in their hands to do, and I think they need to be much more upfront than they've been in the past, and that might give some assurances to people for whom a lot is riding on the inquiry.
And when you say more focused, do you agree with Labour's call for the remit of the inquiry to be significantly scaled back?
No, I don't, and frankly Diane Abbott is just playing politics here. Yvette Cooper, who's the chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee now, and I are absolutely at one at this. We both agree that the inquiry needed to be set up, it needs to get on with its work, it's got an important job to do, and all these distractions are really unhelpful. And if we had to then reassess its whole remit, go back to first base, frankly people would lose any confidence that we're ever going to get a report out of this inquiry at all. It needs to be better focused. We need to make sure we've got some end dates, we need to know what we can expect, but also we need to know what went wrong in the past, and so they can give assurances actually they know what they're doing in the future.
And are you going to call the latest lawyer to resign, or indeed have you got any information about why the other lawyers resigned?
Well, the Home Affairs Select Committee has written to 4 of the lawyers who've left the inquiry. We've just received replies. It's likely when we've discussed them, those replies will be put in the public domain. We've put everything in the public domain because we need to be absolutely transparent about this. We have to respect the independence of the inquiry, but at the same time, we need to know what's gone wrong to make sure it is performing its function as it was set up, it's spending public money wisely, and is still fit for purpose. So there are further questions, clearly, which the Home Affairs Select Committee will want to have answered to give public assurances to make sure the inquiry can get on with its important work.
We're now, 2 years on from when the inquiry was first set up. I think Alexis Jay said she hoped to have an interim report next year and have most of the work done by 2020. I mean, that's not going to happen, is it?
Well, I wouldn't agree with that, because actually, despite all these high-profile distractions about various personalities flouncing out or whatever, a lot of important work has been going on by about 140 or so people who work for the inquiry day in, day out, who have been assembling the data, interviewing people. So the inquiry has been getting on with its business. These distractions do not help that, though. So if we can now clear all this baggage out of the way, the inquiry can be much more transparent, give those assurances. There's no reason why it can't get on with its work and start giving some important reports as from next year, and that's what it was set up to do. And the most important people in all of this, let's remember, are the survivors and the victims of historic child sex abuse. They are not going to go away. The trauma they suffered is not going to go away if we reconfigure, or if the worst comes to the worst, this whole inquiry is abandoned altogether. It must get on with its work.
Tim Loughton, thanks very much. I guess the next stage in all this, Ben, may well be the conclusions Alexis Jay, the current chairman, comes to about the future scope of the inquiry, because she's expected to report quite soon on where she thinks the inquiry should go now.
Norman.